I was born September 22nd, 1947. I grew up in southern Indiana on a farm and lots of places to play and get in trouble. Went to high school in Martinsville, Indiana. I graduated in 1965.
Although he didn't particularly like school and wasn't very motivated, Tom applied and was accepted into Purdue University. But after a couple of semesters, Tom was ready for a change.
I decided college was boring and I wanted to drop out and join the Marine Corps. Left for boot camp July 29, 1966. I went in, I weighed 119 pounds. I graduated from boot camp 8.5 weeks later, and I weighed 176 pounds.
After boot camp, Tom felt ready for action, but he was in for a surprise.
I got out of boot camp and they said, "You know how to type, you're going to clerical school." And I wasn't happy with that, but I didn't have any choice.
While in clerical school, Tom happened to see the movie Hell to Eternity about an interpreter in World War II. Soon after, he ran into his commanding officer who asked what he really wanted to do. Tom said he wanted to be an interpreter, and by the time he was sent to Vietnam in January 1968, Tom was trained as a Vietnamese language interpreter. It was the start of the Tet Offensive, and Tom found that going to language school and interpreting in real life were two different things. He had just landed in Hue City with 75 fellow Marines when they were approached by a group of excited Vietnamese men.
I heard the command, "Interpreter up," and I got real nervous, and I was scared enough as it was. I went forward, and these men started jabbering at me loudly and very rapidly and together, and I couldn't understand a word they were saying. I kept telling them, speak one at a time, and then speak slower, and speak slower. And finally they spoke slow enough that I could make out what they were saying. And they told us that there were 3,000 North Vietnamese a couple of blocks up the street we were on, and if we kept going in that direction, they were going to ambush us.
Without an interpreter, those 75 men might have walked straight into an ambush.
There was a lot of stress to being an interpreter because you knew you had to be right, you had to be correct if they were talking to you, because what you said could affect the lives of the people that you were with and your own life.
For the next 14 months, Tom was there to interpret for 1st Battalion, 5th Marines. If any Vietnamese wanted to say something, Tom was there to interpret. Back home and with Vietnam behind him, Tom decided that Purdue wasn't so boring after all.
This time I was motivated. I actually made B's and A's, and I graduated in only 2 years. I had planned to become a lawyer, but I was out of money and needed to find a job.
The job Tom found was with OSHA. It turned out to be a career path that lasted 33 years.
In 1984, I met my wife, Martha, and we got married, and I was offered a job as area director for the U.S. Department of Labor, OSHA, in Hawaii.
While living in Hawaii, Tom attended a meeting for all OSHA offices on the West Coast and Alaska. The meeting was held in Bend, Oregon, and Tom never forgot it. In 2009, Tom and Martha once again came to see Bend.
Inside of 3 days, she bought a house, and a month later, here I was. Best move of my life.
Since then, Tom and Martha have embraced Bend, and Tom is currently the voice for Bend Band of Brothers.
I've got many, many, many veteran friends here through the Band of Brothers and the Marine Corps League.
And so we say to Vietnam War Marine veteran Tom Marple, welcome home.